Peaceful! Peaceful!
All right, I am here outside at Boston Common for the anti-war rally here in Boston.
No,
They're going to get started here soon. I'm going to go ahead and glance over here so you can see.
No war! No war! Down with the war! Down with the war! We're gonna give some opening remarks today. You know, we're coming out here in solidarity against the war in Ukraine and in solidarity with the Italian general strike that happened and the many general strikes that have been happening in Europe. Some people are out here because of those reasons, but we want to elaborate on them a little bit more. For 9 months and counting, the war in Ukraine has been ravaging the country. And when you do a cursory search for what's happening, and you type in articles on the war, you get multitudes of articles saying, oh, the Russia-Ukraine war. Those headlines span corporate news medias. You turn on CNN, oh, the Ukraine-Russia war. You watch any press house conference, and the same Russia-Ukraine war is being spewed by the mouths of various political figures. This rampant propaganda leads us to believe that the war is principally a war between Ukraine and Russia, but that's not true. It's principally a war between Russia and the US, with the EU and NATO as secondary allies in the supposed defense of democracy. But no amount of blue and yellow flags that Boston city officials fly or flash on the I-93, no amount of Ukrainian flag pins worn on the labels of Democratic counselors, no amount of statements of solidarity made by Forbes 500 companies can obscure the fact that this war has absolutely nothing to do with defending Ukrainian independence and everything to do with the various elite of the world's superpowers dueling it out and trying to submit Ukraine to their various political and economic dominance. This is a war between Russia and the US with support from NATO and EU allies. We need the people of this country to take a stand against the US elite's dirty war in Ukraine.
And this rich man's war is exacerbating the already existing economic crisis as a result of the decaying capital system. A crisis that has created an increasingly more dire and miserable situation for working people at home and in countries abroad. And we're seeing the effects of this crisis play out right now with the price of basic food items like grains and wheat, poultry and produce that have shot through the roof. And especially across the European continent, but here as well, we're seeing the price of gas used to cook your food, used to heat your home, used to fuel your car, shooting through the roof as well. And rent payments you need to make to your landlord in order to keep a roof over your head, and the head of your family is chewing through an ever-growing larger part of the wages you get on a weekly basis. Down with the war!
Down with the war!
Up with the working people! And solidarity with the striking laborers across the continent of Europe and here in America! So we're going to have another person speak. Luke from the Revolutionary Marxist Student Group is going to come up here. Luke.
Hi, everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of the Revolutionary Marxist students from the Boston area. We are here in solidarity with the general strike in Italy and the strength of those workers. But just as Cy Kobas laid out, this is about far more than just workers' rights. Even in the U.S., we see our rail workers struggling against the horrible conditions put on them by the ruling class, and both Democrats and Republicans uniting against them. We see so-called progressives voting against what the rank-and-file workers are asking for. They put on a big show about caring for workers and fighting back against the corrupt U.S. capitalist system, but it's all just aesthetics and a way to keep people complacent and content within this system. But progressive politicians aren't in power to change anything. They're in power to trick oppressed people into thinking they are cared for. But politicians like AOC, who's labeled a socialist at times, voted against the rail workers and stood by the terrible contracts their terrible union gave them. They are given virtually no sick leave and brutal hours. The Italian workers have been treated similarly, if not more acutely, having to recently contend with the pandemic and now soaring costs of living with cut wages, a neo-fascist prime minister, and getting cut off from oil due to the war that we fund in Ukraine. We as the people, we as the workers, have the power to bring the ruling class's machine of power to a screeching halt and force them to give us what we deserve.
All right.
Thank you, all our comrades and friends who organized this demonstration and who are the spark that's going to start the prairie fire of the struggle that is going to start, because our class is being run out right now. Look at folks in matching tasks who have been pushed out of their homes, who are now living on the street. You look at the gentrification that's going on, of people that are going to be in tents encampments because they can't pay the rent. Victory to the rail workers. Victory to the Starbucks workers. Victory to the Amazon workers. Victory to the strikers in Italy. And no war but the class war. And sanctions kill. Sanctions kill. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And ever-growing military budgets. They are all connected, right? Just in the past week, Congress, all but
there.
a handful
You got
of people in Congress,
Can I hear you
voted
a little
to
bit?
increase the military budget are going to the war machine.
I'm short.
And that doesn't even
I can
include
like
the money
squat down.
that they have spent.
That helps.
We have spent
Okay.
twice as much
Now I have to get on this side.
on Ukraine.
Okay.
as Iraq.
All right. I am here with, what's your name?
Luke.
We just
Luke. I'm here with Luke.
created
Luke, why did you
national
decide to come out today?
I'm a part of a few of the groups here, United Against Foreign Militarism and the Marxist students in Boston. But you know, it really, this is our responsibility as people who are living in America, who are in one way or another connected to this war. And you know, this is a really important thing to be speaking about too. You know, the only real narrative that we get in news and in mainstream media is, you know, Russia is evil, Russia is bad, Ukraine is the good guy, we need to support them, we need to keep sending them money, guns, everything. And that's not saying Russia is good at all, but there's this complete lack of nuance in seeing this as an imperial war and a proxy war that we're waging, and we're just making life worse for everybody else. I mean, the Italians just got gas cut off to them.
No, I totally hear you, totally understand. You're a part of the Revolutionary Marxist Student Group. Can you tell everyone a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we are a group that's mostly based on campuses, or entirely based on campuses. Right now, Tufts, BU, I think one at UMass Amherst. We have another study in the Bay Area in California, and then one at Columbia in New York City. And it's really just a way to, you know, students sort of have this freedom. You know, we are at this point in our lives where, yeah, we have school, but we have a lot of free time and a lot of ability to think. And you're kind of at this point where, you know, your brain is, or you're conditioned in the place you're in to kind of be thinking the most about stuff around you. Now, most of that gets shepherded over to these pro-America, pro-imperialist, pro-capitalist ideas. And there's really a need to have some force there pushing against that. And that's what we're there for, and to really try to get kids out of campuses into working with the people. I work with UFAT as well, which I think you know a little bit too. That's a big thing that we get kids to come from, to really be talking to working class people, to talking to people living in the projects, understanding what they're going through, because there's this lack of understanding that these people, they know their situation better than everybody else. And, you know, this theory that we read, you know, it is really important. It gives you a really good skill set to deal with these issues, but you actually need to understand those issues too. And these people, they understand them better than anybody else. It's really important to be interacting with them.
All right. Thank you so much. Again, that is Luke with Revolutionary Student Marxist Group. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Say a few words about
Okay, we are here.
But definitely,
Right. What is your name?
My name's John.
It'll be nice
I'm with the Committee for Peace and Human Rights.
So,
And we are here very often demonstrating against these wars for the American empire. And essentially our point is that sanctions kill, and that we're spending all of this money and resource on wars and taking money away from the people. That's what our government is doing.
That's right. That's right. How long have you been an activist, an anti-war activist?
Since 1998, actually. And I've been an anti-sanctions activist that whole time. We originally came out because of the medieval, brutal and genocidal embargo on Iraq that killed in the neighborhood of 1 million people through economic privation. And now our country, every time you turn around, they're putting sanctions on some other country, whether it's China, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Russia. Every time you turn around, they put more sanctions, and sanctions are war. But in particular, regarding the Ukraine war, every time I see someone holding the Ukrainian flag with the blue on top and the yellow on the bottom, it makes me really sad, because U.S. is trying to fight to the last Ukrainian. That's what's really happening. And a leading European Commission figure said that Ukraine has had casualties of 100,000 soldiers, and these are draftees. They're even drafting, you know, middle-aged men with gray beards. It's like World War I trench warfare. And actually, it's not true that Ukraine is winning. Russia appears to be prevailing. Unfortunately for the Ukraine side and for the U.S. side. They have the very effective weapons. And this war needs to end. It's a war of choice. The United States launched it when they did the Maidan coup d'etat in 2014. The Russian people believe that America has turned Ukraine into a battering ram with which to attack Russia. I think they're right. But I just want to go back. It's so pathetic that people claim to support Ukraine, but we send weapons so that more and more Ukrainians can fight and be killed. So we're going to have to end this war. We're going to have to get to peace.
That's right. Well said, John. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Peace.
Okay. They are now going on the march to the Italian consulate. I actually can't join them for that. I actually have to head back home because I have to do, I'm attending a webinar about climate change. So I have to get back home in time for that. But they are already off on their march. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. One thing I wanted to say, apparently the red line is shut down. Go figure, right? Shit never works out right. Yeah, so the red line is shut down. So some people had trouble making it to Park Street Station because of that. But go figure, that's Boston. That is Boston public transportation like a mother. Boy, I tell you. But yeah, it's brutally cold out right now. Just a couple of days ago, it was just like 50 degrees, and now it's like, I think 30. It could snow right now, actually. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I do have to head back home so I can go to that webinar, that climate webinar. But thank you guys so much for tuning in on a Saturday. Please share with your friends and your fam. And I am out, son. Bye.